He didn't notice it the first time. That morning had been ordinary, the same sequence of gestures, the water running too long, the toothbrush clattering into the ceramic cup, the mirror above the sink fogging in the exact same uneven way, leaving a clear patch just over his face. He looked up, face blank, still waking up, and something felt strange, but not in a way he could name. It wasn't until much later, when he was brushing his teeth before bed, that the memory returned with a quiet weight, the sensation that his reflection, just for a moment, had not quite matched him. Not out of sync, not reversed, just slightly ahead. Like a frame that had been pulled too tight. He dismissed the thought, told himself it was just poor sleep, a trick of the eyes, or maybe the way steam clung to glass. But the next morning, when he leaned forward to rinse his mouth, he saw it again, barely noticeable, a flicker, his own eyes in the mirror closing a fraction of a second before he blinked. The difference was so small that anyone else would have ignored it, but for some reason it lodged itself in his brain like a thorn. The image had reacted before he had. That day, he tried to recreate it deliberately. Sat in front of the mirror longer than usual, stared at himself without expression, without thought, waiting for something to give. Nothing did. He blinked, the reflection blinked. He moved, it mirrored him perfectly. No delay, no lead. Just as it should be. He tried different lighting, changed angles, squinted, stepped back, leaned close. The glass stayed flat, honest, neutral. But the feeling lingered. The following night, just before bed, with the lights dim and the room hushed in that narrow gap between the end of the day and the beginning of sleep, he stood in front of the mirror again. This time, he didn't brush his teeth, didn't move. He just stared. Unblinking. The silence grew thick, like the air around him was holding its breath too. Then, a blink. Not his. His reflection. It was too fast, too early. His own eyes were still open. He felt them dry, stinging. But the reflection had blinked. And now stared back at him with perfect stillness. He stumbled backward, heartbeat low and cold, not racing, just dense, like something inside him had suddenly settled into a different rhythm. He turned away. Didn't look again that night. But in the morning, when he went back to the mirror, everything was normal again. Everything mirrored exactly. Except for one thing. He didn't remember leaving the bathroom light on. He stopped trusting the mirror, not because it moved or cracked or changed shape, but because it didn't, because it stayed exactly the same, always clean, always quiet, always giving him back what he gave it, but with the increasing sensation that it was not doing so in real time. He began to notice it in subtle moments. When he turned his head to the side, the reflection seemed to complete the motion just after he had. When he leaned forward to shave, he caught glimpses of his own eyes not quite aligned with his own intention. It was as though the reflection had its own sense of timing, close enough to be dismissed, but just wrong enough to make the back of his neck tighten with every passing day. He tried to test it. Set up his phone against the wall and filmed himself standing in front of the mirror, trying to catch the desynchronization in pixels and proof. He recorded a full minute, played it back slowly, stared at the tiny window in the screen, and saw nothing wrong. Every blink matched. Every turn mirrored. He felt stupid for trying. But later that night, when he went to delete the video, he noticed something strange. The recording was 1 second longer than he remembered filming, and at the very end, after he had stepped out of frame, the camera had captured a moment where the mirror still held his shape for a fraction longer than it should have, as if the glass had not yet decided to let go of him. He stopped recording after that. Instead, he began avoiding eye contact with himself. He brushed his teeth with his head down, washed his face quickly, turned off the light before he entered the room. But sometimes, when he passed by the hallway and the door to the bathroom stood slightly ajar, he could feel it, the pull of the mirror in the dark, not calling to him, not luring, but waiting with the kind of patience that doesn't grow bored, because it isn't measuring time the same way he is. And on some nights, as he lay in bed trying to sleep, he would hear a soft sound, a single creak of pressure from the bathroom floor, the kind of sound you'd expect if someone shifted their weight just enough to stretch the old wood beneath the tiles. He checked the mirror every morning, more out of fear than need. At first glance, everything seemed as it always had, his face, his tired eyes, the window behind him, the closed door. But over time, details began to blur. The lighting felt slightly different, even when the bulbs hadn't changed. The reflection of the doorway sometimes appeared too narrow, or too wide. One day, the towel hanging beside the sink was on the opposite side in the glass, even though it hadn't been moved. He reached out to touch the surface, cold, smooth, just glass, but as his fingers hovered inches away, he felt warmth, faint and steady, like a breath through the wall.